So, good afternoon, everyone. If you recall, in the last lecture, we saw a gentle introduction to C++, and we started off with what data type C++ supports. So, we looked at int, float, double, string. Okay. So, we need to look at how characters are defined. It's exactly the same way we have done it in C. And the new data type bool can take on only two values, true or false. So we shall see this as well. And most importantly, the constants can be defined in three different ways. In fact, in C, we had only two ways of defining constant. One is using the directive define, hash define. Another one was using const. Whereas we have another possibility in C++ called as const expression or const expr. So what is the distinction between these two and how to use this to define constant, we shall see. Of course, control statements are the same, if else switch statements, and looping constructs are for loop, while loop, do while. The for each loop is introduced in C++. However, for each loop has some limitation. We shall see that today. And input output, last time we saw, it's very simple. Just C in, C out. And if you want to read the entire sentence, it can be getLine. Coming to functions, we looked at simple functions and overloaded functions. Today we shall see, as a continuation of functions, how we can have default values for some of the arguments. So this is a very useful feature wherein you need not pass few of the arguments to the function. Still, it would use some default values and carry out the computation. So that part we shall see today. If you recall, we have discussed at length what are structures in C. So support for structures exists in C++ as well. However, we can have constructors in structures and also functions. Faisal, if you remember, we could not add functions in structures in C. However, we could add only the function pointer. But in C++, we can include functions as part of structure. So that's one new feature which has been added. And today we shall also discuss what namespaces are. And last time there was a question why we use the namespace std. Can I define my own namespace? Yes, certainly. And that is what we shall see today as a demonstration of the concept of namespace. So let's begin. I'll take you to the editor here. Now coming to the variables and their data types, we have looked at int, float, double, etc. But can I define a Boolean variable? So bool is eligible. So it can take on only true or false. So if I say true, it will be true. If you want to make it false, you can do that. And based on this, we can display something. If is eligible, it means now we have set it to true. I want to define some or print some message like eligible for driving license, something like that. Then of course that endl has to come. It can spill over to the next line, that's no problem. Yeah, because the screen size is small, I can make it larger. And then if else, you can just throw one more message contrary to the above, not eligible. So this is the simplest use of a Boolean variable. However, at runtime, it could change based on some age conditions. So you shall see the demonstration of the same with respect to another example. So as you can see, eligible for driving, since this is true, and if I change it to false, it would go to the else part. So if I run this again, not eligible. So this is the simplest use of a Boolean variable. Similarly, char, you can say grade equal to some a or something. So single character we have to assign. And yesterday there was a question, how do I display the character? So suppose if I put it in C out only, like I made a spelling mistake here, grade equal to a. So just put it in the pipeline of cout. It will come out as A in the output. As you can see, not eligible A, right? So if you wanted some space, you can include that. So we have looked at all the data types in C and how they have to be declared and how they have to be used. So these are the two. Of course, only Boolean is a new addition in C++. We have seen the inclusion of a Boolean variable and constants. How do I declare constants? So you already seen hash define. I'm not repeating that. And const we have seen. Let us say const max val, something like that. You want to define some 35. So this is the value you can declare right here, or it can be assigned by a function like this random. So there is a library function called as rand, which will give you a random value, and this constant can be assigned at runtime. See, there are two stages of program execution: compile time and runtime. So compile time is when you actually compile the program using GCC command, and you will only generate the object file. Okay, and there is a runtime when you actually run the executable. Okay, so at runtime you can assign a value to a const variable. It's a fixed value. It is created at runtime. So random is a function which has to execute and assign the value. However, if you use const expression, const expression, you cannot assign a, a runtime value like this using random. Of course, the data type of this has to be declared. You have to say constant max value and since const expression int some variable name, let's say min val, something like that. So the difference between const expression and const is that const can be assigned a fixed value at runtime, whereas const expression can take only compile time value like this. So you have to specify a fixed value. So this is the assigned at the compile time. The advantage here is if you are using constant values, no need to wait till the runtime. You simply assign at compile time and during execution, the constant can be made use. So these are the two ways in which you can assign constants. In fact, const expression was not there in C. It has been introduced to eliminate its assignment at runtime. At exactly compile time, you can get the const value and proceed with your execution. Okay. So these are the new things which have been added in C++. But we only discussed overloaded functions and also their usage in our program. So if I were to declare a function which can take three different arguments and not all three would be compulsory, some of them could be optional. So let's say, so void greetings. Take three arguments. First one is your string, let's say some person's name, and another string could be a message. How many times you want to display this message? So int times, something like this. Now all that I'm doing here is simply outputting the name of the person with a space in between and greeting him with the message like this. And since I want to repeat this the number of times, so I would put it in a for loop for int I equal to 0, I less than times I plus plus. Okay, so this will run as many times as you call here. Okay, so the prototype of this, just observe carefully that the function greetings will have first argument as string, then second argument as again string. I will use a variable msg here because I want to give a default name. Let us say hello. It means this argument you need not pass. Similarly, The third one is times. By default, it is 1. Okay, so the default values have to be declared only in the declaration section or in the prototype declaration of the function, not in the actual implementation of the function, which I've done it down here, line number 17 to 21. So you don't write a message equal to hello here or times equal to 1 here. Just declare the function as it is. And now if I call this function greetings and say, let us say some name, and if I don't pass anything, it would say Ajay hello only one time. Okay, so let us see whether it is doing that. Is everything right? So one problem with this editor is it doesn't show up the errors quickly. Everything was fine, it was still showing the error. So as you can see, the name Ajay is displayed with a space then hello only one time, because I have called this greetings function only with one argument. Suppose if I pass another argument, let us say have a nice day, and specify uh, two arguments, skip the third one. This time, instead of saying Ajay hello, it will now say Ajay have a nice day. Okay. Okay. So now that MSG, which was getting hello default, is replaced by the actual message that you pass in the function invocation. Now, if I increase the count of times, then the same message will be displayed twice, as you can see here. Okay. So it is very versatile that you write a function and define one or two arguments as default. However, certain rules apply. The default values have to be assigned from right to left. Okay, and all three can be default values. For instance, if I say Kiran here, and if I call the function without mentioning any argument, then it would display the default message Kiran hello only one time, as you can see, right? So, but you cannot miss the middle one like this. You cannot have uh, first value default and in between you have no default and third one is default with some value. Okay, so this is not permitted. So assignment of default values, that should start from the right, and it can end anywhere. For instance, you may not have default value for message, only times can be default. In this case, the first two arguments become mandatory. So here I can say Kiran, then the second has to be supplied. Okay, and the third, anyway it is default one, so it will accept now. All right, so default values are important and they must be assigned from right to left. So here if I wanted, I could have displayed, I could have included a default value like this. So are the rules with regard to functions with default values are clear?
Sir, while calling the function, if you want to retain the have a nice day, I just want to change the first string and number of times what it want to call. Uh, so the middle argument, what it should be empty for
Yeah,
calling.
yeah. Uh, now the second argument can be empty. Second and third.
And third one, I wanted to call it for three times. So first
No,
argument for
no,
an
no.
empty.
You cannot write like this.
Okay.
Just a minute. I'll just check.
Yeah,
Possibly.
it is giving error actually.
Yeah. No, it will not take because it is expecting second argument as a string.
Uh,
So
so
if you pass something, it will take. Okay.
okay, followed by third.
And third one, you can make it three times, four times, whatever.
Okay, okay. When we have a defaults defined, then
Yeah,
during call we have to give all the three
yeah,
if you want to.
yeah. So the place of those default values have to be maintained.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah.
thanks,
So,
sir.
so would you like to try this out or Okay, so we'll try one more example with for each loop. Now I told you that if we have an array, let us say we have an array of some numbers, and the easiest way to display these things is use for each loop int x colon a and just say cout x, maybe little space after that. If you
Okay.
put endl, the next number will be displayed on the subsequent lines. I want all
Okay.
the numbers to be displayed on the same line.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so endl is not mandatory. If you say endl, see what happens. All the numbers will be displayed vertically.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Got it. Yeah.
that is the effect. Now, one problem with this for each is that if I pass this array to a function, let us say there is a function display, okay, and you want to pass that array a, and that function I want to write here display. So how do I declare the prototype here? Int a square bracket, right? Okay, and here if I place the for each loop, there is a potential problem. So what is that problem? Why that problem is coming? We shall see. So I am taking int x here and take each value and try to display like this. So what I have done is that for each loop, instead of displaying in main, I am trying to display it in a function. That's the only change. But this doesn't work. Okay. The reason is argument that to describe in display int a square bracket is a pointer, isn't it? So the a which is coming inside your function a is a pointer. It is not an array like it is in main. All right. Though you have declared it's a int a square bracket, actually it is a static pointer. And that being a pointer, it will not know where the array is starting and ending. Like the way it is in main, it is well aware where your array is starting at index 0 and where it is ending. So if you run for each loop inside main, it will run because it knows where the list begins and where it ends. But now if you copy the address of A by passing A into display function, that address being a pointer, it doesn't know where the array is starting and ending. Maybe it is knowing where it is starting, but it doesn't know where it ends. So you cannot apply for each loop like this. Now the solution for this is you have to pass a second argument where you pass the size of the array, and here that n you can declare. There are 5 elements, so I can declare this, and using the array name and the size, I have to use regular for loop. You cannot use for each loop. I less than n, I plus plus, and function prototype we have to write here. Void display int is an array. This is a regular variable. Okay, so now this should work. Okay, so one thing to remember is that for each loop you cannot use inside a function if the array is passed as an argument in the called function. So that point must be remembered. Is that okay?
Hmm. So we can
Yes.
use pointer arithmetic also, no? Here,
Where?
different in this for loop.
Yeah, you can declare a pointer and use pointer arithmetic. Say int star p, okay, equal to a. So you can use that pointer itself here. Okay, or you can say while loop
While
cout star p and p plus plus. That can also be done.
yeah.
Hmm? So this should also work because the points are uh, functions with the default values. The rule is from right to left, and for each loop doesn't work inside a function if array is passed as an argument. So these 2 points must be. Coming to the structures, we have had structures defined at length. So we can define struct, let us say student, and within this we could have just string name, maybe string university number, and then maybe int score, 3 members. Okay. Now what C++ allows you to do, in fact the tag can also be assigned as student here, allows you to do is to define a constructor for this. So constructor, as you know, is same name of the structure, and here you can pass arguments. Then I'm using short form for name as n and university as u, and score as s. And these things can be used to initialize the data members. Name equal to n, usn equal to u, and then score equal to yes. And if you want to display, you can write a method also here. So you can write void display. So what this simply does is it will simply print name, little space, usn, little space, and score. And since you are displaying only one, there is no endl required. If you want, you can add one. All right. Now, how do I declare a string variable, a structure variable? So I just say student s equal to, and you can initialize that using a constructor, that is student bracket. You can pass name, then usn, some region number, and then some score. So this will initialize the object, and then if you want to display, you simply have to say yes.display. Okay, by default everything is public in a structure. Of course, we will be learning classes where everything is private by default. All right. So what C++ allows you to do is, along with data members, you can define a constructor, also define functions inside the structures, and use them to carry out some task like displaying the information that you have provided. Okay, so let's see if it goes through the compilation step. So we can define structures, initialize them using the constructor of the structure, and then call the methods using dot operator. Okay, so can I declare a pointer to the structure? Yes, that should also be possible. You can say student star p equal to ampersand yes. The address of yes I am passing, and if I want to display the same data again, p arrow display should come here. The arrow operator must be used. So let's see, it displays same information again. Right? The second one that is coming out here is through a pointer variable, which is pointing to the same object. All right. And if you wanted to use another object, you have to create another object variable and initialize like that. All right. So use of structures is far more advanced in C++ because it allows you to add constructor, allows you to add methods, and then instantiate object of those, and use pointers also to access the data members and also the methods. Is this part clear? Shall we
Yes, sir.
shall we move on, or we want to try this out?
We'll try this one.
Okay, this you try.
Sunil sir, actually, I just have one doubt.
Okay.
In this particular student structure, okay, we have defined the void display. Like that, can we have some more functions like
Definitely.
add,
Yeah.
meaning if it returns something like, meaning suppose let us say like I just want to have a function where it should return the integer variable, integer number,
Okay.
so that to say that particular function has been success or failure, like bool or something like that.
Okay.
Meaning bool add,
Hmm.
add of some particular instead of this thing, you have given the constructor as student string n, u, and s, right? So now I want to create, add the some more details to that.
Okay. See,
Particular structure.
a simple function with Boolean return value I can think of like this. Boolean, okay, based on the score whether he is pass or fail. Okay, so you can check result or something like that.
Okay.
And you expect some value here, minimum score, something like that.
Okay.
Okay, and here just check if score less than minimum score,
Okay.
you return false. It means he is failed.
Okay. Right.
Okay, else return pass or return.
Okay.
Okay,
True.
and
Right.
here you can check P arrow check result. Here you pass the score, we have passed 19, let us say 17.
20.
20. It means he's a failure, isn't it?
Yes.
So I have to put this in if statement.
Right.
If it is
No,
true,
maybe I can just okay. If
he is pass, okay, or he or she is pass.
Okay.
And in the else part, see out he or she failed. Okay, and if you wanted, you can put endl also.
Okay, understood.
Here also. So what should happen now? Your score is 20, and 20 is.
He is failed. He or she is failed now.
So what should come out? Fail or pass?
Failed. It should be failed.
Yeah.
Because it is if, right?
He is or she failed. Okay. So if I put it as 10.
10. Yes. Now it is passed.
Yeah, you can do the same thing, but problem is
Simplification you have
if
used
both
it,
are
or
same, then there is a confusion. Which is name? So then you have to prefix this with this pointer.
Okay, then I didn't understand the point of doing this.
Yeah. Oh, 1 minute. Let me keep it as it is.
Yeah.
This one. See, what I am doing here is when you look at line number 25, I am creating a student variable. Okay, and I have to, if I just create student variable, it will contain null values or zero value for those strings and integers. Okay, so in that case, if you try to display, what comes out is null values or some garbage value. Right. So to initialize those data members, you can do that as well. You can say yes dot name equal to, that is also possible.
In that case, why we are giving name is equal to n? Like even without that, it should work, right? This.
No. See,
here in the student
think of student as a function, just like your display function, like these functions. So constructor is a special function whose job is only to initialize the data members.
Okay.
So with what values you want to initialize name? That is n. That is n is coming from your main function, that is promote. Okay. So this is only for initialization purpose. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
That is not required because
Not
it is well within the structure. While compilation, it knows where is that function within the structure, and it will resolve that.
okay.
So this constructor is similar, like if you compare with Python, the init
Yeah,
function, right? And
init function. Yeah,
function.
exactly the same. Here you cannot initialize name equal to something.
No, I mean like the for the constructor, direct initialization
You
is
mean
you
some
can.
name here?
Huh.
Now that becomes fixed. If you create one more
Hmm.
object, that will also be Kiran.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this. Okay. For example, some if you write fixed value, those values will come out in the result. Even if you pass anything, see now if I have written something, I am passing Pramod, it will not be assigned. Okay, so the default values will come. Okay, now you see the value Kiran to CS 1923 is coming. Okay, it will not use the value that you are passing. Okay, so you can use the variables instead of fixed values here. Of course, all these things become clear when you move to classes, where it is more relevant to define a constructor, and these are the constructor arguments which you pass from the main and use them. Okay, now you are able to do implementation of a structure. Now, what more remains to be covered is a concept of a namespace. As I told you, namespace will help you to avoid name clashes, which are possible across many files which are part of your project. So, what is a namespace? Basically, it will allow you to put your variables, your methods, or even functions, or even structure definitions inside a separate block. So the way to define a new namespace is just use namespace and give a namespace like generic. You can give any name. I'm just, for example, demonstrating this, and you can write a method display one or whatever. I'm not using display because display is already present outside the main. So it does very simplistic things. Simply displays hello world and generic guy. And we can define one more namespace with exactly the same function name. Call it as specific. And within this, we can have void display one, and we can have cout. Hello, I am a specific guy. All right. Now, the way to use these display functions is either through using namespace directive, where if I want generic type display, I can use that generic and call display function here, display one. And now if you run the program, you will see the message comes from the display defined in generic, that is hello world, I am generic guy. On the other hand, if I change this namespace to specific, okay, automatically it will switch to the display defined in specific namespace, and you will see hello, I am specific guy. All right. So namespaces help you to reuse the names of the functions and perform different tasks. All right. Now, is it possible to put the entire structure inside a namespace? Yes, it is very much possible. I can say namespace, call it as department, and end it here, and define one more namespace, call it as office, and you can put exactly the same student structure with few modifications to demonstrate the usage of the namespace. Let us say in the office namespace, you have the same student object where you include the fees paid by the student. So fees must also be initialized. We say float fees, and here fees equal to f. I could use f here, and then also displaying. You can use with space in between, and then display the fees of the student. Yeah. Now we have two namespaces. One is office, one other is department. Suppose you wanted to use department namespace. You just say using namespace department. And here you declare student s2 is equal to student Ajay, then some USN, then semester, then some fees. Let us say 1,14,000. So now this object S2 will be displaying the second student of this type. As you can see, this is Ajay 2BU 19CS3. So this is coming from your department namespace. Suppose if I wanted to use office, so I simply change this to office, and only thing is you would now call the constructor with 4 arguments. Yes, now you can see hello J this number, and the fees is also coming through. That is because we are using office namespace. Now what if I wanted to use department student? So I would prefix that with department : then you say student s3 equal to again department : student, then some name, some USN. Yeah. Now this has only 3 arguments, so semester I have to pass like that. And now if I display this s3.display, you will see the student data is correctly displayed. As you can see, Pramod, the USN, and semester. So only 3 arguments here. So you can use namespaces to avoid name clashes, and if you are using the directive using namespace, then you don't need to prefix that with the class name. If you don't specify any prefix or the name of the namespace, it is by default coming from the office. Otherwise, if you specify the scope resolution operator with the name of the namespace, and that object will be created. So in summary, what we saw today is what are different data types available in C++, int, char, float, double, etc. And Boolean data type we saw, it can take on only true or false values. We went on to see how to define functions with default arguments, and the way to define a function with default arguments is in the declaration, and the default values must be specified from right to left the way it is shown at line number 3. So the greetings function has 2 default values, and the first one you have to supply. So even if you can specify the default value for the first one, and when you invoke the functions, only the first argument is mandatory, whereas second, third, if you don't specify, it will use default values and perform the requisite function. We saw the structure definition in C++. It is far more powerful than the C version, where you are allowed to define your own functions within the structure and call them with dot operator. Similarly, it has a special function called as constructor, which has exactly same name as the structure, and it is basically used to initialize the data members which are defined in the structure. And finally, we saw the concept of a namespace that allows you to reuse the names inside the respective namespaces. And using the namespace directive, you can use the name of the structures or the methods or the functions in your main program. Okay, so we shall see more of these things in the coming videos. Until then, goodbye. Thank you.